What's going on, guys, in the works, and welcome to the first episode of Battlefield 4 Underused Weapons. Sort of. And the reason why I say sort of is because we're going to be using this as our foray into the world of the underused weapons in Battlefield 4, because I still think it's a little bit early to see which weapons aren't going to be the ones that people use, because I mean, we're still waiting on a lot of fixes to the game, so we don't want to make any huge declarations. But I still want to talk about some of the things I've been noticing with particular weapons, some of the loadouts that I see people, using versus loadouts they're not using, weapons they're using versus weapons they're not using. And today we're going to be focusing on the CBJ-9, which I like to call the CBJ sandwich, and the Compact 45. So it's going to be kind of a double whammy. I figured since we can use the Compact 45 as our secondary, we might as well talk a little bit about that as well. But like I said, it's still a little early to talk about which weapons are the most underused. But if you go to Battlefield4stats.com, you can kind of look and see which weapons are getting used. And even though looking at that's not some sort of scientific equation that says, well, this weapon's the most underused weapon in the game, you can kind of get an idea of which weapons are the least preferred. I think that's the best way to describe it. And the engineer class in particular, a lot of the PDWs seem to get a pretty balanced amount of use, besides the JS2 and the CBJ-9. So I figured I'd pick the better of the two in my opinion, which is the CBJ-9, and talk about it for our first underused weapons. And this is actually a weapon that I kind of like. I mean, if you were to look at the stats, you would say, well, why on earth would you like this weapon? It only shoots 700 rounds per minute, it only does 22 damage, has a really quick drop off, so after about 12 meters, you're already starting to drop off that 22 damage. So it's typically always going to be a 5-bullet kill, but it has a lot of controllability. I mean, if you look at a PDW, it's supposed to be an in-your-face weapon anyways. I mean, you're not going to go out there trying to shoot people at long range, but the CBJ-9 does possess the ability, if you need to shoot people at long range. Do I suggest that you engage a sniper at 300 meters with the CBJ-9? No, I don't suggest that. But in some situations, you just get caught in a long-range thing where you turn on someone and he's shooting at you with an AR. At least you can get some shots on him, and heck, maybe you can kill them if you get really lucky. That's really not going to be my basis of this video, I promise you guys, because like I said, you want to get away from the long-range mentality when you're using PDWs. You want to be in your face. And I think the CBJ-9 does a very, very good job of being a controllable up-close weapon. Are you going to lose rate of fire battles? Absolutely. But that's not what this weapon is for. So, if you look at it, as you see me quick scope this guy with the SRAW, there's a lot of different characteristics among the PDWs. I mean, you've got the PP2000, which does 25 damage, has a very moderate recoil, very easy to control, and you still get the AR type damage model. Then you've got the CZ3A1, which is a blazing fire rate weapon, but it has a small magazine. But then you've got the CBJ, and it's a little bit different because it's got 51 rounds. That's a pretty big advantage over the PP2000, which only has 45 rounds. So when you're assessing this weapon in comparison to the other PDWs, you've really got to think, hey, I've got 6 extra rounds with the CBJ. That means I could probably kill 1 extra person if it's a 5-bullet kill, especially if you're using the weapon how it's supposed to be used, which is up close. So I really do like this weapon for scenarios like you see throughout this video where I'm up close in your face, I'm flanking people. It's a very, very good flanking weapon. I would highly suggest you do not take people head on with the CBJ-9 because that is not what it's for. Can you be successful like that clip right there? Yeah. But I also caught them off guard, so it took them a minute to realize I was there before I actually, they actually started to engage me. But my personal preference with this weapon, I like to run it with a silencer. You've seen a couple clips throughout this video where I am actually running silencer. This particular one right there, I was just running it with the laser sight. I didn't have any sort of barrel attachment on there. But silencer works really well. There's a couple of clips towards the beginning of the video where I was using muzzle brake and compensator. I've experimented with all of them. I don't really have a preference. I would say though, it works really well with the silencer. Because like I said, if you're using the tactic of getting around behind people, using this as a up close in your face weapon where you're flanking around, you catch a squad off guard, you can usually kill them all in due time, because you've got enough rounds where you can spam the living daylights out of your rounds. So keep that in mind when you're using this weapon. It's really situational on what attachments you want to use. I almost always use some sort of laser attachment though, because it seems to be the best with this weapon. But let's talk a little bit about the Compact 45 before this video comes to an end, because everybody knows that the 45 caliber rounds in Battlefield 4 are a little bit wonky. I think a lot of people have been out there saying, hey Dice, you need to buff this in some way, because it seems like the damage drop off just happens way too quick. There's really not a whole lot of advantages other than the fact that, hey, the 1911 and the Compact 45, they do more damage up close, but that damage does not last very long, and typically you're outside of the range that actually even becomes a factor. So at that point, the damage drop-off happens, and you're more likely to rely on the fact that you need more rounds. And the 1911 and the Compact 45 has a very low ammo capacity magazine. So it's pretty simple to see why nobody really likes using the Compact 45 or the 1911. Now, are there people that use it and say, oh, I love it? Yeah, absolutely. You know, I use it all the time, but I'm also an idiot. I think if you're looking at straight stats and you want to use the best weapon possible, I would say just use the P226. I think that's the best kind of balance between damage and ammo capacity that's in the game. But, you know, that's just personal preference at the end of the day, but I think the Compact 45 1911 definitely needs to have some sort of tweaking done to it, as you see me tie with that guy there. So hopefully you guys did enjoy this first little impromptu video on underused weapons. If you did miss any of my past videos, here is a chance to catch up, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.